So if you guys know anything about OnePlus, you know that they're a little different whenever it comes to being a phone manufacturer. Not because they'll pack their phones with top of the line specs and sell it at a much lower price compared to competitors, but they also tend to release phones really, really quickly. So on the table in front of me, I have two phones, the OnePlus 5T and the OnePlus 6. The 5T was released November of 2017. The 6 was released May of 2018. Now, some of you may own this phone and are thinking to yourselves, should I upgrade to this one? Or some of you may be in the market for a new phone and are debating between these two. This video is for y'all. We're going to talk about the differences between these two phones and talk about which one is worth your hard-earned cash. Let's get to it. So essentially what I want to do for you guys is go over the basics of both of these phones, the specs, the hardware and the build, the cameras, the displays, the battery, essentially two mini reviews about each phone. That way you guys will hopefully have the tools you need to make a more informed decision regardless of which phone you want to buy. Bear in mind that if you guys want to watch full detailed reviews, we have one for each of these phones. All you got to do is go a little further in the channel, but I'll see if we can just go ahead and post some links. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the spec comparison between both of these phones. So paper specs. The OnePlus 5T comes with Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 in terms of processing with an Adreno 540 GPU. Now that's paired to 8 gigs of RAM in the variant that I have here on the table. Now the OnePlus 6 comes with the latest and greatest, the Snapdragon 845, paired with an Adreno 630 GPU, and the variant that I have on this desk also has 8 gigs of RAM. To be completely honest with you guys, the software that they run, OxygenOS, is completely identical. So both of these phones are going to perform exceptionally well, and none of them are going to lag regardless of what you do to them. The only difference these two have in terms of those specs are, do you really care about having the latest and greatest under the hood? And do you really care about those benchmark results? Because those are really where you're only going to see the differences. That's basically it. Another aspect of the phones that are incredibly similar, actually exactly similar, are going to be the batteries. Both phones come with non-removable 3300 milliamp hour batteries. And to be completely honest with you guys, both of the batteries last about the same. I know as newer processors come out, they're supposed to be more powerful and also more power efficient. But I didn't really see that too much during my testing with the OnePlus 6. Either way, the good news is that both these phones come with dash charging right in the box. So even if you find yourself low on juice, you can charge up super quick. There aren't too many charging methods right now in the market that are better than dash charging. So that's definitely a plus for the decently sized battery. So we're gonna talk about the display, and from this point forward in the video, I feel like you're gonna start noticing minor differences that are gonna lead up to slightly larger differences between these two phones. But let's touch on the display because there are just a few differences with the OnePlus 6. So the OnePlus 5T has a 6.01 inch full HD display. Now it's Optic AMOLED and it's got about 401 pixels per inch. It's also 1080p by 2160, I want to say. It's got even bezels on the top and bottom. Now the OnePlus 6 is where things get a little different. It does come with a notch display, so that kind of throws off the ratio a little bit. But we're looking at 6.28 inches, so slightly larger than the display on the 5T. That is also going to be Optic AMOLED, and it's going to be 402 pixels per inch. So 1 pixel per inch better than the OnePlus 5T. Both of them are going to be Corning Gorilla Glass 5. Both of them support DCI P3 color gamut, and both of them are really good displays for not being OLED, which is what we're used to seeing from basically 2017 and above. One weird thing though, the displays are really close to being identical, but for whatever reason, things just look a little better on the 6. I'm not really sure if that's just because, hey, this is the new phone and it's new phone bias and that's just what you're thinking. But I've had a couple people in the studio confirm that as well, just by looking at the two phones side by side. The display on the 6 just looks a little more natural when compared to the 5T, even in just basic things like scrolling through menus or looking at pictures. We're gonna try and kind of show that on camera to see if you guys can get it. I promise you I'm not crazy, but the display on the 6 just looks a little sharper and a little more accurate when compared to the 5T. But besides that, you aren't gonna find too many differences between the two. I promise, I'm not crazy. So let's talk about how the phones are built and what materials are used to manufacture each phone. Starting off with the 5T, now the variant that I have is going to be the Sandstone White, so it's going to be a little different when compared to other 5Ts that were released. But nonetheless, it's a mainly aluminum body with glass on the front only. On the right side of the phone, you have your power button with your dual SIM tray. On the left side, you have your alert slider with the volume rocker. On the bottom of the phone, you have a single firing speaker, USB-C charging port, and a headphone jack. Now, the 5T does come with face unlock, and it does have a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor. It's a really nice looking hardware package, and I really do enjoy the minimal bezels on the front of the phone. It's, in my opinion, one of the best looking phones to ever release, especially the Sandstone White color that adds that kind of coarse texture to the phone. I really enjoy it. Now moving on to the 6, this is going to be a majority glass build. So you guys won't see it on mine because I have a dbrand skin on it right now, but the front and the back of the 6 are going to be glass. The glass is available in different finishes. You can get one that actually looks super glossy, or you can get one that looks more matte. It also has face unlock, and it also has a rear mounted fingerprint sensor. It has a power button on the right side, and different from the 5T, the right side of the phone has the alert slider. So that's moved from the left to the right. On the left side of the phone, you find the dual SIM tray and the volume rocker. And on the bottom of the phone, you're going to find the same single firing speaker, USB-C charging port, and a headphone jack. So it's really nice to see that they moved the headphone jack from generation to generation and they didn't get rid of it. But there are some subtle hardware differences. The biggest one being that you're going from a majority aluminum build to a majority glass build. One other thing to keep in mind in terms of hardware, with that majority glass build, you're not getting wireless charging, which kind of sucks. But again, you have dash charging, so it's okay. So now for our biggest difference between the two phones, the camera setup. Now we're gonna mainly focus on the rear cameras. The front, let me take a look at the front cameras. So both of them have 16 megapixel front cameras. Both of them are f2.0 aperture. So they're really similar in terms of selfie cameras. But the rear dual camera setup on both is where things get a little different. So the primary sensor on both of these phones are again close to identical, 16 megapixel f1.7 aperture. I feel like they probably used a different style lens on the OnePlus 6 because, in all honesty, taking identical photos, everything just looks better on the 6. Color reproduction and accuracy is a lot better on the 6. And the 6 can even handle tougher shots that deal with dynamic range way better than the 5T can. In terms of secondary camera, these are where the two start to stray. The 5T's secondary camera is a dedicated low light shooter that is only supposed to work whenever the phone senses it's in incredibly dark environments. During my time with the 5T, I never really saw that kind of come into play. And from my understanding, you have to be in really, really dark environments for that kind of camera to even turn on to take the shot. And to be completely honest with you guys, when you're in that dark of an environment, I don't care how good the low light shooter is on a mobile phone, you're just not going to get that good of a picture. The secondary camera on the OnePlus 6 is a dedicated depth sensor that helps with portrait photos. Now, I think the idea of portrait photos are cool. I still think they're much better executed on a DSLR camera. But the fact that they're on mobile phones is pretty neat. I don't take too many portrait photos because a lot of times I find that even on a phone like the Pixel, it doesn't always come out as well as you intend it to. And the camera can blur lines on the subject really easily. But camera setup on the 6 is a lot better than it is on the 5T. Photos look a lot better. Sharpness, color reproduction, the ability to deal with dynamic range is all better on the 6, I'm sorry, not the 5T. So overall, the much better camera experience is going to be with the 6. Now, in terms of video, both phones can shoot video in 1080p and 720p. The 6 can shoot in 4K at 30 and 60 frames, where the 5K can only shoot 4K in 30. So you're gonna get the ability to shoot different types of 4K footage in terms of FPS with the OnePlus 6. Another differentiator in terms of video with the OnePlus 6, it can shoot video in super slow-mo. So the 6 can shoot in 1080p at 240, where the 5T can only do 720p at 120. I know I'm throwing a whole bunch of numbers at you, but basically what this means is the 6 also has better video capability. And if you really like the idea of the Samsung having super slow-mo video, you're going to get much closer to that effect with the 6, and it's going to look a lot better with the 6 than it will with the 5T. So overall, the camera setup is where you're going to see the biggest differences between the two phones. The OnePlus 6 is the winner here by an absolute long shot. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but in terms of software, the two phones really are close to identical. So the OnePlus 5T, as a matter of fact, while we're shooting this video, just got an update for OxygenOS 5.1.3. Now it's based off of Android 8.1.0 Oreo with the May security patch of 2018 installed. My OnePlus 6 has OxygenOS 5.1.7, so slightly different, but again based on Android 8.1.0 Oreo with the May security patch installed. And whenever you're doing things like going through settings or menus or using the dialer or using the camera, a lot of the UI features, a lot of the software interaction that you're getting, a lot of the look of the software in general is really similar on these two phones. So in terms of software, there really isn't too much of a difference. So you shouldn't be too worried about that. And both of these phones should be in line to get Android P. Now, there may be more of an emphasis on the 6, but that's just because it's OnePlus's newest phone, so they need to have an emphasis on it. But I have no doubt in my mind that the OnePlus 5T is also going to get Android P, which should be, again, really similar to the OnePlus 6. So software-wise, you're in good shape with either of these phones. Okay, so we've covered the big points of the phones, and we're going to talk about pricing and availability between the two. And this is really for people who are on the market looking at both of these phones. So the OnePlus 6 is available to buy. That's kind of the thing with OnePlus. Every time a new phone comes out, they don't really allow you to buy the previous phone. And a lot of times the previous phone goes completely out of stock before the new phone even comes out. So if you don't really try and keep up with rumors or anything like that, you could see the phone sell out before the new one even comes out. The 6 is available right now, and if you want to get the variant that has 8 gigs of RAM with 128 gigs of storage, you're looking at about $579. That's really, really good for the types of specs and performance that you're getting out of the OnePlus 6. Now, just doing a basic Google shopping search for the 5T reveals that obviously you're going to have to buy it from some sort of method of resale. eBay, Amazon, maybe even used, depending on where you look on eBay. But you are probably going to find the phone anywhere from the higher 400s to some people are selling it for the upper 600s. And I feel like mainly that comes down to the fact that, hey, you can't buy this phone brand new anymore. So someone who has it still sealed in a box, they may be able to charge a premium for it because it's not manufactured. So it's a little more rare than it was whenever it was being mass produced. If you can find the 5T for cheaper than those prices, I would say go for it. But one thing to keep in mind is that the OnePlus 6 is readily available. So if you need a phone immediately and you don't really feel like shopping around for the best possible price, the OnePlus 6 will be the better option just based on overall availability. So that essentially does it between the comparison of these two phones. To kind of recap, the OnePlus 6 is going to give you a couple of advantages over the 5T, just not too many. You are going to get a much better camera, there's no doubt about that. And you will see some differences in the build, majority glass versus majority aluminum, and some slight differences in the display. Really similar display technology implemented, but it just looks a little better than last year's model, and it also comes with a notch. So if you're okay with it, then that's great. Now, in terms of availability, the 6 is going to be the much better option. It's basically shipping immediately, according to OnePlus's website, in any color and any storage variant. So you should be good to go there. In terms of the 5T, you may have to shop around a little bit more, but if you can find it cheaper, then I say go for it, because you're getting a lot more similarities than you are differences. So you're going to get a really similar software experience, you're getting the same exact battery in between the phones, and you're getting a really similar display as well. And in terms of software updates, they should be really close to each other. Like I said, there may be slight emphasis on the 6's software updates, but the 5T shouldn't be too far behind. So if you can find a 5T for cheaper than the 6, I say go for the 5T and maybe jump onto the OnePlus 7 or whatever they're going to name the next one that's probably going to be out in about 6 more months. I hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. If you did, let us know in the comment section. If you want to see any other comparisons, let us know. We'll try and make those happen. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.